coat batch of my rear end parts cooling off on the rack. So what we have here are leaf damper brackets, U-bolt base plates, the U-bolts of course, and the arced shim keeps the U-bolts from spreading out on the axle. Leaf front eye pins, shackle pins and their brackets, and the shackle hangers. Rear brake backing plates were significantly rusted. I hit them with POR15 instead of powder coating them. Rear axle hubs before blasting. Came pretty darn clean. Now it's going off to the platers. Rear axle prior to the blast cabinet. And after. I really wanted to plate these zinc, but my plater wants like $100 a pop. It's like, what? You gotta be kidding! I'm just gonna powder coat them. Now I was thinking about powder coating them black, kind of boring. You know, when I bought a bunch of powder, I bought this 80% gloss chrome powder. I think I'm gonna end up using that. It's kind of weird to be powder coating your rear axle hubs in that color, but I mean, I've got it. And at the time I bought it, it was an impulse buy. I couldn't think of anything I was gonna powder coat, 80% gloss chrome. Just kind of bought it because it was there. But I've got these all taped up, the high temp tape. They're pretty much ready to go. I guess we'll find out when I'm actually standing in the powder coat booth. Am I gonna use black or am I gonna use chrome? We'll see. Could go gold. It might be pretty. Okay, new batch of powder coat stuff. I did 4 colors last night. We got black on the brake drums, accelerator pedal, and its actuating clip. I've got silver that I went ahead, the car color that I used on the little shield that covers the brake line on the axle, and the little housings for the brake adjuster. And this here is the splitter for the brake lines. And these here are the brake lines that traverse the length of the differential. There's also a clutch line in there. And as you can see, I went with the chrome. Now I didn't clear coat it, so this will end up dulling, which is actually in my favor. I wanted to zinc plate these. So by the time this chrome dulls, it'll look more like the zinc I wanted it to be to start with. So I think it's gonna be good. Besides, nobody sees this stuff after I've bolted everything up anyway, so. I got the leaf springs all cleaned and blasted. Layers of paint and dirt and grime are gone. I was going to powder coat these, but I get down to it and I find that there are hard plastic pegs holding these things together. I don't know exactly what kind of plastic it is and what its melting point is. I don't know if it's going to be okay in the curing oven. And the black powder that I have requires like 390 degrees. So, I'm not going to powder coat them. I'm going to use POR15. I looked into the flexibility of POR15. It is slightly flexible. The leaves are going to flex a little bit. We should be okay. So the leaves are cleaned with marine clean. Now it's time to hit it with the metal prep for the POR15. Metal prep likes to be on for about 30 minutes. Give it a nice etching for the POR15 to adhere to. The metal prep is drying a little quickly in the sun. I'm going to move the whole show in the shade. So I'm going to keep these wet over the next 30 minutes. After that, it gets hosed off with hot water. POR15 recommends 70 degree or hotter water. So I've plugged into the water heater in the garage. Perfect neighbor Mike is out working on his Airstream again today. Yeah, Mike's pretty awesome. Super knowledgeable guy, very helpful. Just another source of knowledge and wisdom for me as I take my first restoration undertaking. Guys like him are invaluable. I want it in the sun for a while. This thing has to be bone dry before attempting the POR15. So never do this without a mask. I left my masks in my powder coat backpack. That's up in my other garage, long ways away, so I kind of had the fact that I'm outside going for me. There was a breeze. I could see the direction that the paint was going. Pretty much steered clear of it. I'm pretty much just holding my breath and, you know, doing small spurts. It's the only way I can do it. Had to get it done that day, so just had to press on regardless. I felt like I was pretty safe. Boy, do I wish I had this spray gun when I was painting the differential and the rear brake shoe backing plates and the heat shields that I hit with the high heat POR20. Oh, and the battery tray too. All of those would have come out a little bit nicer with a spray gun, but I just never thought I'd be painting a car with a spray gun. So, used a brush. Thin coats for POR15. Little bit goes a long way. My neighbors all think I'm a loon. It's like, who the hell is he talking to? Making a video. They don't know it. And yes, that is a spot of POR15 on my camera lens. It came right off though, you know, the glass wasn't prepped. Alright, let's get some Super Pro bushings put into my leafs. Super Pro bushings come with Sil Glide. You should use it. Definitely use it. From what I understand, you can still get Mazda bushings. But I went with the Super Pros. I want it to be a little tighter than it was. Let's do some shackle bushings. Rear shackle bushings. Okay, there's those. It's time for some axle flange gaskets. Got some Velcro, rubber fiber sheet, gasket material. Now some guys just use, you know, like Permatex or Hylamar. I'd rather use a real gasket. Can't find my X-Acto knife. I wish I had my X-Acto knife. This is kind of rough. I don't know. X-Acto knife, my ass. Scissors. If I was a badass mofo, I'd be laser cutting this at Tech Shop. But I'm not a badass mofo, so using scissors. Nice! Battery's always dead when I need it. Now I have to use power drill that has a cable. How archaic. Okay, just fucked up my gasket. As my father-in-law would say, what'd you learn? Drill the holes first. I could edit all these videos down to make it look like I'm a BAMF doing everything right the first time, but it's not the truth. I don't mind showing you guys some of the mistakes I make, you know, maybe doing things in the wrong order. That's how we figure stuff out in life. I just needed a better drill that I had up at the other garage. I made a couple more that same day that I ruined the first one, but with the low-powered drill, the holes for the bolt holes were just funky. Doing them over. It's time to put some axles back together. I'm gonna drop it off at a machine shop, get the axle bearings, collar, and spacer put on. So the bearing spacer goes beveled corner first down to the flange of the shaft. And the bearing collar is pressed on with the beveled edge facing the final drive. So if you'll remember, upon disassembly there were some metal shims, aluminum shims. The aluminum shims come in two thicknesses, 0.1 and 0.4 millimeters. Measure the thickness of the new bearing outer race, 0.629. 0.629, and compare it with that of the old one. Change the thickness of the bearing retainer plate shims by this difference, 0.629. 0.629. We're good. This means I can use the exact same shims that came off. If you fail to heed these measurements, it could bind and not spin at all, or have a heavy drag. Alright, time for some new seals here. Taking off the high temp tape that was sealing out moisture and protecting it from paint. Some bitch was in there tight. Just for fun. Now to get that in, I'm going to hit it with like a engine valve or something. So I've got a 1 7/16 socket. Beauty. This reminds me that I need to fix the race here where the bearing slides into. It's gonna need a little sanding. It's got corrosion on it. Yeah, this one just presses in. Wow, press it in with my thumb. I need to fix that race that the bearing slips into. I need to hit it with like a 600. I've got 220 here. I think the 220 is going to do it. It's still highly polished. So I was going to put the axles in today. The shims that I need are at the other garage. That's going to be another day. For wheel cylinders, we got these puppies here. I got these from my buddy Tony. He's putting an RX3 together too, but I believe he's going to go with 4-wheel disc. So yeah, he doesn't need these wheel cylinders. Made in Italy. It's kind of interesting. He probably picked them up at Rock Auto. They're cheap. They come without studs, so I got brand new studs going on. Gonna hit them with anti-seize. I don't have a wheel cylinder to mounting plate torque specification. So if you do, please leave it in the comments below. At the bottom of the brake backing plate mounts the brake adjuster. Boom, there it is. Make sure you got all this stuff in order. The shorter shaft goes on the left side of the vehicle. The two shims are 4/1000ths and 16/1000ths. Pay attention to the direction that the flange, the gasket, the brake dust plate, and the shims all go back on because they all have a cutout, so they need to be in the right direction. Thin coat of gear oil on the bearing. Help it slide in. Okay, using the slide hammer again. Alrighty then. So the backing plate torques down to 20 foot-pounds. Shim first, then the 16/1000ths. That's 0.1 and 0.4 millimeters for metric. Gear oil. So one washer fell, rolled all the way to Queensland, Australia. So these nuts, bolts, and washers that came off, either zinc or nickel plated. They were not cad chromate like just about everything else that came off. So I stuck with original. The sound of our doves. They're wild doves, but I like them because the doves chase away the crows. Okay, let's spin this down. 20 foot-pounds. That's like 2.2 kilogram meters. And that's where I'm going to end this episode, which brings us to the question of the day. Turn signals / running lights are available from Thailand. Reproductions, they're actually really good, very inexpensive. I'd love to know what you think about which of these I should put on the car. Should I stick with the US version, which would be solid amber? Or should I go with the rest of the world version, which would be amber clear? Let me know what you think about that in the comment section down below. Car fans, thanks for watching my Mazda RX3 restoration videos. Click subscribe, watch my previous episodes, and don't miss out on upcoming videos. Coming up next, leaf spring and differential installation, McPherson strut reassembly, rear brakes, and much more. Peace out, brother.